Welcome to Retirement Straight Talk with Paul and William, featuring award-winning financial advisor and former host of the Sunday Money Show, News Talk 1010, Paul Barreca, and his associate advisor, William Barreca. Creating and keeping wealth does not need to be complicated. Paul and William will cut through confusing and contradictory financial advice to give you the real facts to help you invest better and enjoy a worry-free retirement. The views and opinions expressed in this video may not necessarily reflect those of IPC Securities Corporation. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.
Hello and welcome all of you who are either watching us on our YouTube channel or listening to us on one of the streaming services. This is episode 49, Retirement Straight Talk with Paul and William. And today, I've been in this business now for over 3 decades. It's a long time. And William, you've been now 6-7 years in the business, right? You've picked up a lot in your time here.
Something like that. I don't have quite the breadth of experience that you do, but I'm getting there.
But you know what we find as you do this business more and more, you find that there are certain truths or tenets that just seem to work. If you follow them religiously, they're not going to work all the time, but this create wealth and create more success in money management, in your life financially. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You and I have went through this and we've come up with 14 truisms.
Well, this was inspired by an article from, or a blog from Ben Carlson at Ritholtz Wealth Management in the States. We love those guys. They do a lot of great work. Yep. I'll put the link to the full blog in the show notes. So I encourage everyone, if they want after listening this, to go check out the full blog from Ben. It was really good stuff.
Yeah. So that's what we want to talk about today. And well, let's start. Let's get going, Wayne. So the first one, I'm betting that most people listening or watching, their ideas of risk are wrong. And why are they wrong? Well, did you grow? Here's a good question to ask yourself, by the way.
I wouldn't say they're wrong, Paul. I think maybe they're perceived differently, but go on.
Okay, all right. That's semantics. But, did you grow up with scarcity or abundance? And there's two different ways of growing up. Let's say your teachers in school or college, do they tend to be a little bit more left-wing, a little bit more right-wing? Did you work in a situation where your family was a business owner? Or were they more a salaried employee or a union member? Or, this is a big one, by the way, did you or someone you know close has been in a situation where you or they have lost money or earned big money with investing? All of these things influence our attitudes towards money. And that is what you mentioned. That's our perception of risk. It's based on what we've experienced up to date, doesn't it, Will?
Yeah, and this can bear out in many ways. Like, for example, Paul, you go back all the way to the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And coming out of that, the U.S. stock market didn't really get going again or recover fully until around the 1960s. And the reason for that is everyone who grew up in the Great Depression or had invested and lost a ton of money during the Great Depression, it scarred them to the point where they didn't feel comfortable investing. They wanted to keep their money like almost under their bed because they were afraid it would just disappear.
Yeah. My parents were an ideal. They were born in 1920. They grew up, their teen years was during the Depression. And boy, they don't trust the stock market. And boy, you don't throw anything away, not even a paper clip. You save everything.
Another way it bears out, which a more recent example, is the financial crisis in 2008. I've heard about, Paul, some people, you probably heard the same or similar stories where just because of bad luck, a person started to invest around that time. Maybe they just graduated from school, whatever the case is.
And didn't do well.
It didn't go well. And again, it scarred them, similar to what happened in the Great Depression. Yep. That was their first experience with investing. And even though we've had a pretty consistent, with some bumps along the way, like always, but pretty good bull market in the States since then, they haven't
Very
been
good
able to
bull
get their money
market.
back in. They're still keep staying in cash or risk-free assets.
Yeah.
So like we're trying to get at, just your experiences greatly alter your perception of risk and how and
Yeah.
what you do with money.
So let's go on to the next truism about money and money management that I've picked up over more decades than I want to admit. Here's what we hear. My spouse or my buddy or whatever, they have an MBA. They watch BNN daily. They know business and the economy, and they know the stock market. Really? Intelligence. And this is, but what did Buffett say once? He says, investing is not a game where the guy who has 160 IQ beats the guy with 130 IQ. Matter of fact, that high IQ, doesn't Buffett say it's probably a hindrance to your financial success? I mean, I've met, I don't know how many really smart people, surgeons, lawyers, high paid senior executives, really, really smart people in what they do. And they are horrible in dealing with money. Horrible. I remember hearing
Investing is one of the few things, Paul, where for example, I wouldn't want a doctor or someone to operate on me who'd never been to medical school, didn't have a great education, but it's kind of
not a good idea.
No, would not want that. Wouldn't want a lawyer similarly who didn't have a good legal education. But investing is kind of, it's different in that way. You don't need this huge intelligence. You don't need a fancy MBA, go to Harvard and all that stuff. Emotions is the hardest part of investing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, intelligence does not guarantee investment success. That's number 2 in our money truisms. Number 3, hey, you know what? The average hold time, I read this the other day, the average hold time for US equities was about 5 years in the 1970s. Guess what it is today? About 10 months. 5 years to 10 months. Yet the interesting thing is, if you look at the market over a short period of time, the market's up about 2/3, and that's pretty good over any 1 year period. But over a long period, it's up 100% of the time. The fact is, although we've all heard that patience is a virtue, most of us are not patient with our investments. And that's exactly what the real smart people, the Buffetts, the whomever you want to talk, the real people do with money. They say, be patient. Be patient. What does Buffett say? He says, investing, kind of like what you said, well, investing is like a baseball game, except you don't have to swing at every pitch. You can wait for as many pitches as you want to find the one that you like, and then you swing at it.
Yeah. Getting rich through investing, it's really incredibly simple, except for, well, it is simple, but the hardest part is the
But
patience.
it's hard. Absolutely. Okay, so that's number 3 of investment truisms. No one lives in the long term, or very few people live in the long term with investments. Now, the next one of truisms, and we ask all of our clients on a regular basis to update. We ask them, what are the 3 most important things for you with your money and your financial situation? And virtually everyone says the same thing as one of them. I just want to feel safe and secure. I want to feel comfortable that what we're doing is right. Everyone is virtually the same. And again, we all have our own fears. And that's why the only way I know, anyways, to overcome this question that every client or every person really wants, for as far as I can see anyway, is accomplished through planning. And that is looking at your situation, holistic planning, look at your entire situation, developing a plan and seeing, hey, you know what? I'm on my way. The numbers show that I'm on my way to accomplishing exactly what I want. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
So,
for example, I guess 2 years ago now, 2022, when we had that really bad year in the markets, I think most people at their core weren't concerned about what the stock market was doing, but they were just worried, am I going to be okay through all this? Can I withstand this?
that's it. Bingo, bingo. So that's number 4, that most people's are only concerned with, am I going to be okay? Number 5, Hey, we touched on this before. Well, it's never been easier to invest from a technology point of view. You can automate everything. It's electronic. It's inexpensive. It's darn simple. We've talked about investing in simple passive indexes as being the best way for the great majority of people. It's simple and easy, isn't it? Well, except for what? It's never been easier to mess up too, right?
Yeah, because there's this barrage of media. Everyone has these phones in their pockets all day. So they're on social media.
Like
They're
this one.
hearing exactly. There's all these so-called experts out there pontificating about things that they really don't know about, but people listen to them, and it causes people to sometimes make suboptimal decisions. So never been easier, but also there's a lot of difficulties that didn't previously exist.
I mean, there's tens of thousands of investment products, tens of thousands of experts, as you were mentioned. There's at the same time, we are all subject to our many biases. That we have confirmation bias, recency bias, and fear and greed. It's just when you have the media shoving all this stuff in your face, contradictory information every day, it's tough sometimes to do it properly. So that's number 5 in our investment truisms. It's never been easier or harder to invest. Number 6, hey, it's been said, I don't know who said this way, maybe you know. It's been said that the best way to get rich quick is slowly. Who said that? Do you know who said that?
I don't know. I'm sure lots of people have said that.
Anyway, and if you think about that, it kind of sounds silly, but after you're in the business, like we've been for a while, you go, hey, that is absolutely so true. And why? Because it works. Because we know if you stay in the market for a long time, we know you're going to make money. We know, as long as you don't do silly things, of course, because it works. While the great majority of strategies often don't work. So all you have to do to realize this is just look at people who make money quickly, by the way. So you win a lottery. How many lottery winners do we know that you've ever heard about actually have money 3 or 4 years later? It's all gone. It's all gone because they haven't acquired wealth through patience and over time, and and through that, you get discipline on how to deal with money. So that's number 6. Getting rich overnight is often more of a curse than a blessing. On to number 7 of our money truisms. Hey, Will, did you ever read the book, The Black Swan? Did you ever read that book?
A while ago, yeah.
Yeah, so just to inform our listeners, Black Swan is a book put out, I don't know, a decade or so ago, and it talks about how in the old days, and this goes back a century or two, people never believed there were such things as a black swan. There are only white swans. There's no black swans ever. It'll never happen until some explorer found black swans, and I think it was in Australia, whatever, it doesn't matter. So it's the same thing. Who forecasted the 2008 financial crisis? No one that I know. The 2020 pandemic, the Ukrainian war. The fact is that the biggest risks are always the same, yet they're different when you're investing. And we can't, the next big problem that's going to create a big mayhem in the investment market, no one's probably even thought of it yet. I mean,
and that's why, that's right. That's why you don't want your financial plan to be dependent upon predicting these events, because that's impossible to do. You want your financial plan to be set up in a way so that you're able to withstand these inevitable events.
Yeah, and the biggest mistakes that investors always make, they're always the same. They try to time the market when they know it doesn't work. They buy investments that have done well recently, even though there's no guarantee, and they probably won't do well over the long run. And, it's always a different market, but human nature is very, very consistent.
There's always, I like to say, when someone comes to me and says, oh, it's a tough time in the markets, whether it's, because of a war or, some political problem or something like that, I like to say, you can go back at any point in history. I could show you a newspaper for any day in history and show you several
Yep.
events as to why you wouldn't want to invest at that point in history. There's always something going on. The problems that exist today, they'll largely be forgotten about even just a few months from now, and then there'll be something new going on.
I mean, a couple of years ago, everyone said, "Oh, don't invest in Europe. Look at the war in Ukraine." This is in 2022. And by the way, during 2022, the European markets greatly outperformed the U.S. market. No one saw that coming.
No.
So that's number 7, right? The biggest risks are always the same, yet different. Number 8, in investment and money management truisms. All I want to do is for you to manage my money. If you heard, I don't know, I've heard that a number of times. People come to me. We want to look at a big holistic picture, taxes, estate planning, retirement planning. And they go, no, just manage my money. I don't want to do anything else. Well, if you're hiring someone just to manage your money, you're likely going to make some big expensive mistakes. That's going to result in you paying probably a lot more tax than you need to, probably not achieving your goals. And my guess, you're probably not even 100% sure what your goals are. It's probably going to mean you're going to say 10 years down the road, you're going to look at someone and go, man, I should have did this 10 years ago. And the longer I realize the personal finances, doing financial planning is an absolute prerequisite for successful planning. Unless you do the planning, you're going to end up nowhere. You're going to end up nowhere. So, and kind of the subject line is there. It said a product is not a portfolio, and a portfolio is not a plan. So that's number 8 in investment money management truisms. Let's go to number 9. Number 9, hey, how many people have we met who, we suggest something to them, Will, and they want to think about things, not for a couple of days, not for a couple of weeks, but months and months. I'll get back to you in July. I'll let you know about that. You've heard people like that, right, Will?
Yeah, all the time. And what it often results in is they're overthinking and trying to think of the absolute perfect solution. But then in the process of overthinking, nothing ever ends up being done.
No. And of course, again, investing always involves uncertainty and change. If there wasn't uncertainty and change, you wouldn't earn the premium return that you get. You just have to be comfortable with making investment decisions with imperfect information. So that's number 9.
Well, before we move on, just a great solution to overthinking is to set your savings on autopilot and just have them automatically go every month. This eliminates the tendency or the desire to try and time the market, try and pick the perfect investment. Just set it up on autopilot so you don't have to think about it anymore.
Boy, and does that make your life more relaxed? You don't worry about things. You're not rushing out to put that money in the RSP in February. It's all being done automatically. And then, if you forget about it, well, and I've been through this myself, and all of a sudden you look at your statement a year later, 2 years later, and you go, wow, hey, look at all this money I got. Feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Number 10 of investment truisms that I've learned over 3 decades in this business. And boy, again, here's something we've heard from our clients. They have, a number of different accounts and a number of different positions. And how many times have we heard this, Will? Why did this individual stock or ETF or mutual fund, it didn't do well, but all the other things did well? There's no such thing as a perfect portfolio. Matter of fact, it's inherent. You want positions that some go up and some go down, because you know what that does? Well, that smooths out the bottom line. And I don't know, but that's what most people want. They want a smoother ride. They don't want big ups and downs. If you have all positions in your portfolio that are all similar, you're going to have likely a lot more volatility in there. So the perfect portfolio, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist. Matter of fact, I'm virtually certain it doesn't. And the best portfolio, when's the best portfolio? Well, We talked about this the other. The best portfolio is one that.
Yeah, the best portfolio is it's not necessarily, it actually rarely is the one that will make you the most money over the long term, but it's the one that you can actually stick with. You can try and optimize your
Bingo.
portfolio to theoretically make the most, and like maybe if you put it on a spreadsheet, it would make you the most money over 10, 20 years. But if you actually have to live, for example, through the volatility that comes to getting that high long-term return, maybe because of your behavioral biases, you won't be able to take that, and you'll end up making decisions that will end up costing you and make it not an optimal portfolio. So best portfolio is one you can stick with, not one that will necessarily make you the most money over the long term.
Bingo. Financial and wealth planning is not done with spreadsheets.
Nope.
So that's number 10. There's no such thing as a perfect portfolio. Number 11, the market is rigged. How many times have we heard that? The market is rigged. I'm not investing in that. It's all rigged. But you know what?
By the way, Paul, this used to be true.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. The market has been democratized in the last 30, 50 years or so. But I just finished a book about the stock market in the 1800s. And there was some shady things going on, lots of insider trading, but that's besides the point. That's not going on anymore. The stock market, you can compete with the richest people, most powerful people in the world. You're on a level playing field now.
Yeah, it's not the market that's rigged. It's your emotions, our emotions as human beings that are rigged against you. Our experiences, our biases about what we think we know. The fact is, all of us know less than 1%. Even if you're an advisor, you know less than 1% of probably what there is to know the whole world of investment information. But you just have to make a reasonable selection and do a plan. And as you say, stick with it. The markets are not rigged. It's our emotions as human beings that are rigged. So that's number 11. Number 12. Now, here's something interesting. Markets go up on a one-year basis about 2/3 of the time, 65 to 70%. Pretty good odds over 1 year. But just as a comparison, casinos pay back about 45 or 46% of their money. But the markets over a 1 year period are positive most of the time, and over a long period are positive 100% of the time. 100% of the time, historically. Who knows in the future, but realistically, over a long period of time. So what we find is that people who invest, and by the way, people just in their life, optimistic people do better. This is a statistical fact.
They're better investors, yeah.
And they're better, I've read, William, they're better at life. People who are more optimistic are better at life. They're more successful and happier in life. I mean, there's always detours and unexpected troubles. We know this with the market and life. But you know what? Just expect them. Understand, okay, things will change, make some better decisions and move forward.
Just understand, if you're buying a globally diversified portfolio for the long term, that's just a bet that the world economy is going to continue to grow over the next 5, 10, 20 years. I'm an optimist. I think humanity is going to keep evolving. And I think investors would be better off by having those similar attitudes.
I think, well, it's been proven that way in the past. I think so in the future too. Moving to number 13 of investment and money truisms that we've learned over decades. And geez, you see some investment products, Will, and my God, even me, I have trouble understanding, what they're all about. It almost seems like overcomplication should be a selling feature by some of the companies that manufacture these products.
It drives me crazy when I see that. So, yeah, all these fun companies, they're promoting their products based upon how complicated they are. That's not a positive. They frame it as a positive, but it shouldn't be a positive.
Fun companies and financial institutions, big banks,
financial advisors, by the way, some financial advisors do the same thing. Look how complicated my portfolios are. Look how many positions there are in them. Again, shouldn't be a selling feature, but they present it as one.
And these products are often far overcomplicated. You mentioned The fees inside are often astronomical. They're great for the companies that manufacture them. They make a lot of money. High fees,
That's why
and
they
often
want you to
they're,
buy them. They make more fees on them, all else being equal, than the more simple ones.
and usually there's a lot of illiquidity in them. If you want, if you buy a stock or mutual fund ETF, we can push a button, you have your money in a day or 2 days. A lot of these products, nope, can't have your money with these. It's stuck for another year or 2 years or whatever. So again, I've changed my mind a lot over the years, over the decades about investments, but I'll never believe anything except that complexity is generally not a good thing for your investment products and what you buy. Moving to number 14 and the last risk. And this risk is something I bet people aren't expecting us to talk about, but yet this risk can destroy your family's well-being. It can destroy your children's future. It can erode or bankrupt your business, even though you spent decades maybe toiling long hours and long weeks and long years building this up. And the interesting thing is the cost to avoid or reduce this risk is often pretty darn cheap. And of course, what I'm talking about is insurance. People, and now once I said the word insurance, how many people, probably half the people listening, what are they thinking? Well, they're probably thinking, those damn insurance companies, all they do is take my money. I don't want to give any money to them.
I'd say that's true. No one likes insurance companies, but for the rights or for most situations, people need insurance in some form or another. I'd say it's very rare for me to meet with a prospective client, Paul, and examine their insurance situation and say, oh, this person has the right amount of insurance. It's either usually they've been oversold permanent insurance that they might not need, or perhaps they're a family with debt, like a mortgage or a young kid, and they don't have term insurance, or they're young people, they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they have no living benefits, no disability insurance, no critical illness insurance.
No.
Can you imagine? Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, I just said, here's a simple way to look at this. If you're working for a company and your company says to you, you know what, your paycheck is going to drop by 2.5% tomorrow. But you know what, if you get run over by a bus on the way home, we're going to take care of your family financially for the rest of their lives. We're going to make sure that your kids have money to go to school. We're going to make sure that they can stay in the same world that they live in now. How many people wouldn't jump at that? Are you going to notice that 2.5% reduction in salary? No way. No way. You're not going to, unless you're earning minimum wage, you are not going to notice that. And that's often how cheap and simple it is to take care of things, like you say, life insurance, critical illness, disability insurance. And boy, if you're a business owner, without insuring yourself or your key employees or a buy-sell agreements, the whole business you spent decades maybe building, maybe worth millions of dollars, can be gone. That value can evaporate overnight without proper insurance. So I think that's pretty well it for today. Well, we've gone through 14 of what I feel I've learned over decades, money truisms that, if you follow, hey, you're probably darn well going to be financially successful. So thanks for everyone for joining us. The next podcast that we're going to do, which is it's number 50, I think. Will, is it number 50? Wow, 50 podcasts.
For us.
Wow, and we're going to talk about your estate, fees and taxes in your estate. Boy, they can get pretty darn big. We're going to talk about what they are and how to potentially mitigate them and reduce them and maybe eliminate them in some circumstances.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks again, everyone. If you like this episode, please pass us along to someone you feel would value from the information. That'd be a big help to us. If you want to hear more from us, we're both on social media. You can find both of us on LinkedIn. You can follow me on X as well. So thanks, Paul. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll chat in a couple weeks.
See you in a few weeks, everyone. Bye-bye.
This podcast was brought to you by West End Wealth Planning, an award-winning wealth planning practice catering to small and medium-sized business owners and to those looking to create a worry-free retirement for themselves and their families. To learn more, go to westendwealth.com. Don't forget to rate this podcast and subscribe to Retirement Straight Talk with Paul and William by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts.